Hi everybody, and welcome to it's week one, and I promised you an additional video, and this is going to be it. We're going to talk a bit about your week one assignment, and in the process start to bring in some of the elements with regard to the discussion and ethics. But this is really going to focus on your assignment as you go into the weekend. So let's start by going back to something I alluded to in the welcome video, which was that public relations is really a boundary organization. Hunt in 1984 wrote a public relations textbook that was very model-oriented. And in this model, Hunt took a look at an organization and then where does public relations fall within that organization? Now, you're going to have an assignment in week 3 where you're going to get into this a little bit more. So this is really laying a good foundation, not only for the week 1 assignment, but for the entire month when we get right down to it. So let's talk about what a boundary organization is. And I'm going to go over to the iPad, and we're going to go ahead and look at boundary organization. Actually, we're going to call it a boundary function to separate it from the organization itself. And then what we're going to do, we'll draw a circle to represent the organization. Now, in the center of the organization is where the leadership is. Could be the owner, it could be the CEO and president, or it could be everybody that's in the C-suite. So that's Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Human Resource Officer, Chief Financial Officer, everybody that has C before their name. So we're going to draw a circle, and I'm just going to put C-suite in the circle. And then we're going to take our bigger circle, which is the organization, and divide it into quarters. Now the organization, from this perspective, gets broken down into 4 subsystems. So we obviously need a product that we can sell. And so one of the subsystems is the means of production. And that's where we produce, whether it's a good, tangible good, or it's a service, it's got to be produced. And that's also really where we begin to develop the brand, is in the production subsystem. Well, once we produce it, we need to then get rid of it. And what we need to do is dispose of it. And so disposal subsystems are really something we're very familiar with, because that's nothing more than sales and marketing. So we have production, sales and marketing, and now we need to talk about the resources that we need in order to take care of everything that's involved with production and sales and marketing. And that really takes us to what's known as the staff functions. And the biggest of those staff functions, or one of the 2 biggest, is human resources. Sometimes finance is considered, but when you think that in order to have a finance organization, you got to have staffing to begin with. Staffing kind of trumps everybody. So we're going to call this other quadrant the staff or maintenance. And in particular, what we're looking for is human resource function. And then finally, that leaves one last quadrant, which is the strategic planning and modeling for the company that provides the information that's needed to the C-suite to help leadership of the company decide how the company adjusts and is impacted by the environment. So this is strategic planning. Now, what's interesting is strategic planning oftentimes has a very heavy financial slant to it. But when we talk about planning and strategy, research and planning go into a lot of different departments, and it's going to be included in what we talk about. It's what the whole purpose behind this week's assignment in public relations is a research component. So I haven't told you, though, where public relations falls in here. Well, when I said it's a boundary organization, or better yet, when Hunt said it's a boundary organization, what he's talking about is public relations handles communication that comes out from the C-suite and disseminates it into each of the management subsystems. And so we operate at the boundary of the leadership of the company. But we also operate at the boundary of each of the subsystems. So we operate on the inner boundary, and then there's an outer boundary between each of the subsystems, and in production, it's their supply chain. We handle communication that way. For sales and marketing supply chain really is their target market and potential markets. And so there's communication that goes on there. There's also the staff function. Think about, why do people go to work for a company? They're attracted to the brand. But how do they get the communication about the brand and the messaging about the brand? Sometimes it's direct advertising. But for the most part, it's the efforts of public relations. I'll give you a great example with Disney. Disney actually pays below the industry average. And they can do that because of the strength of the brand and the image that the brand has. People want to go to work for Disney to be associated with Mickey Mouse. It's that simple. I know, because I was one of them. Okay, and then strategic planning also faces outward and with audiences that could impact the strategic planning story. So that explains what the organization looks like. And it's important to have this view of the organization so that as we start to think about what things do we need to research as a public relations organization, well, we want to really understand who are all the people that are in the supply chain, who are all the different target markets that we could communicate to, who are all the potential employees that we could communicate to, and who is influencing them. What stories do we need to tell? What newsworthy events do we need to create in order to engage all those different audiences and make them stakeholders? Which brings me to another point. Stakeholder audience, public, and the infamous stockholder. It helps if I spell correctly. There you go. So, a stakeholder is somebody that is impacted or can impact the organization. It's that simple. Audience and publics are people and groups that can hear the message that the organization sends out. However, when that message begins to impact a specific public or a specific audience member, then they become a stakeholder. And then finally, we have stockholders. And stockholders have invested money into the organization. So, yes, a stockholder is certainly a stakeholder, but a stakeholder is not necessarily a stockholder. And then audience and publics are groups or individuals that hear the message from the company, but it doesn't necessarily impact them. When it does impact them, then they switch and then become a stakeholder. So that's the first phase of what we wanted to talk about today, and I hope that helps to give you some ideas with regard to how to approach the project. I'm going to come back with another video for you, but I wanted to get this one out there first and allow you to start to think about this. So we'll call this video the boundary function of public relations. This is Dr. John. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.